A quote that has been attributed to English politician Edmund Burke says that all that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And that, I believe, ladies and gentlemen, is the fundamental reason why we are in a battle for the very soul of the United States of America. A battle between good and evil. A battle between our way of life, one of limited constitutional government, and tyranny, of communism, of fascism, of all the horrible isms that you can name that have caused more death and destruction than any other religious ideology, and yes, it isn't a religious ideology, than any other religious ideology in all the centuries combined. Because you see, these isms, communism, socialism, fascism, are essentially three stripes of the same authoritarian bird. Yes, they manifest themselves a little bit differently, but the end result is ultimately the same. Complete and total state control. There will be no God but that of the state, and it seeks to subvert the will of the people and to have us all bow our knee at the altar of the state. Now, as a devout follower of Christ, I have a problem with that, and you should too, because I believe there is no king but Jesus Christ, and my heart and my allegiance is with him and him alone. And with that in mind, I have often felt that the reason that we see such evil in the United States of America, and that we have strayed from our Christian foundations and our responsibility as a covenant nation, is because the Christians in America, the people of Christ, have forgotten their responsibility. You know, the scriptures say in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, that if my people, who are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face, I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal their land. Why are we allowing evil to prosper? Why are we allowing government to grow and children to be ripped from their mother's womb, limb by limb? The children that are already born to be mutilated and have them confused about the gender that God gave them? Why are we seeing our tax money fund wars that are not in America's interest? Why are we seeing people want to completely trash the United States Constitution? It's because Christians have allowed people who do not have a Christian worldview to take over. And that is a problem, because our founding documents, our Declaration of Independence, and our Constitution are uniquely Christian. And we have forgotten that because for so long we haven't went back and read the primary documents of the founding fathers themselves. We have forgotten that we are a covenant nation, and we have allowed a secular, godless system to indoctrinate even ourselves and our children for generations now. But we have a responsibility. And so with that in mind, I would like to talk to you about something that happened this weekend in the state of Utah. My brother in Christ, Glenn Beck, and a dear friend, and the man who inspired me to do this, did a tour with Tucker Carlson in which he addressed the people of Utah. And he addressed the fact that the reason that that particular state is suffering is because people of God have forgotten who they are. And I believe that this doesn't only apply to Utah, but to the whole United States as a whole. I want you to listen to these two clips I'm about to play for you, and then I want to continue to talk about it. because I'm telling you, my brother hit the nail on the head. Take a listen to this.
Not a lot of them in your state government.
The state government in Utah? I don't know who you're talking about. Can you be a lot more specific?
So I have to tell you, I was walking in and I completely understood it because I'm aware of politics here, and nobody in my crew was understanding. And some women, as I walked by, they were like, "No cocks, no cocks, no cocks."
But can I don't want to get controversial, but I have a sincere question. As someone who follows politics here, I have one friend who represents the state as a wonderful, wonderful man in Washington. I'm not going to name names, Mike Lee. And what a great man.
That guy, they take drills into his head every night. They hate him.
And he's such a normal person with like a normal family and a happy marriage, and he thinks about things, and he's like a normal person.
Quite honestly, the way the media and some leadership in this state treat Mike Lee is an abomination.
Yeah.
He is not a radical. He is not a radical. He is a constitutionalist. And for a people who used to really love and listen to and obey Ezra Taft Benson, what the hell is wrong with you?
Well, I mean, Mike Lee is about as radical as I am, which is not at all radical, actually. The definition of moderate, I believe in rules, I believe in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Mike Lee actually understands it. Mike Lee is the opposite of a radical. But here's my point, not just to defend Mike Lee, which I'm happy to do, but to ask, how did a state filled with like the happiest families in the country and the most normal people in the country, it's literally Utah. I mean, it's a synonym for happy, thriving people. How did they get leaders like that in the state? I just don't understand that.
Let me answer it this way. I do not know, listen to this. Only cheer if you have thought this, okay? Isaiah, I will clean out my own house first. Oh, crap. Have you thought that, Salt Lake City?
That just went right over my head, but I'm glad that
So the idea is that God says, I will clean out my own house first. I'm not coming for everybody else. Everybody who says they're with me and they're not, I will clean that house out first. And then we'll go, okay? And I have to tell you, I've talked to people in Salt Lake City, a lot of people, and apparently not as many as I thought, but a lot of people have said, I am worried about our state because we were founded on God, beyond the country. Do you know what Brigham Young's one of his first things he did? They were chased out of Missouri, and they had bloody feet from walking in the snow. The men were all killed. When they finally came here, which you and I talked about today, I think I would have been pissed at Brigham Young if he said, this is the place. I'd be like, what?
No, I'm going to Tahoe.
Yeah. Did you see Denver back there? I mean, that's nice.
Yeah. So, and there are a lot of reasons for that. One of them is a lot of, non-traditional Republicans, or non-traditional, people who haven't voted Republican before are voting for Trump, or say they are. So, as of right now, Trump is ahead. The Harris campaign knows that, which is why they're blaming Russia again. But, what could happen in the next 6 weeks that changes that? I don't see.
I honestly think the only thing that could change that is one of two things: massive corruption, and our side believing you can't overcome that massive corruption. That is absolutely not true. But I think it's like 3 in 10 Christians vote. Did you know that?
3 in 10?
Something like that. It's a very low number. It's not what you would expect. If our churches would just say, go out and vote and use the scriptures to tell you the difference between right and wrong. You know this, my gosh, that we're fighting the same battle we have fought from the very beginning. This is as old as the Tower of Babel. It's as old as Satan being cast out. What did Satan say? I'll bring them all back to you, Father. I'll bring them all back, but I want the credit. I'll tell them what to do, and you won't lose any of them. Okay? Jesus said, send me. They're going to make mistakes, but I will sacrifice myself. I will die so they can live again. Which one did God choose? Jesus. We're having the same argument. All of these politicians are saying, give me the credit. I'll tell them exactly what to do. Nobody will be hurt. Nobody's going to be running with a stick that could poke out their eye. Nobody will have guns, and if that doesn't work, nobody will have knives. Nobody will have choice because nobody can fail because that causes problems. That's Satan's plan. That's not Jesus. That's Satan. Choice. God believes in individual choice.
Now, I talked to you last week, and I said that Kamala Harris wishes to tear the entire Constitution to shreds. She wants to tear apart the only thing standing between you and I and complete and total totalitarianism. The choice is clear, my friends. As I've told you many times, and I will continue to tell you, this is not just Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, some liberal. This is about preserving the very fabric of America, our way of life, our constitutional system, and complete and total tyranny. Now, if you don't believe me that Kamala Harris wants to tear the Constitution to shreds, take a listen to the video I did last week where she talks about how she wants to completely regulate social media companies for spreading hate speech. She's coming after you. She's coming after your fundamental rights. And if you think that Christians can afford to sit this one out, you're sorely mistaken. I argue that it's because Christians have abdicated their duty that we're in the mess that we are right now anyway. We are the literal hands and feet of Christ. It is our job to spread goodness and godliness to the world. And the people of this country that do not know what a blessing it is to be an American and the goodness of the God that this country made a covenant with, it is on us to preserve that way of life. It is on us to spread the gospel and to say no to these clearly moral issues. Take your scriptures, read your scriptures, search your scriptures out in your heart, and vote. It's not enough just to pray and sit back on your hands, my friends. We must pray, and then we must get our mind right through communion with God. And then we must act, because we are the literal hands and feet of Christ. And if our world goes to hell in a handbasket, it's not God's fault. It's ours. He said from the very beginning to take it and subdue the world. Christ prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane, on earth as it is in heaven. He wants the will of God done on this earth as it is in heaven. And we are the ones responsible for that. So if this country is in trouble, it is our fault, not anybody else's, not the unbelievers, our fault, my fault, and your fault as followers of Christ. And we cannot afford to do this. We cannot afford to be apathetic anymore. These are clear moral issues. And I believe that America has succeeded for so long because historically we've been a force for good in this world. Well, we've forgotten that. We've forgotten our moral responsibility to be that shining city on the hill for the rest of the world. And like it or not, ladies and gentlemen, the rest of the world is looking at us. And we have a man who took a bullet to try to preserve our way of life and our Constitution. The best we can do is to stand behind him and to stand behind people like Mike Lee, God bless him, and Rand Paul, who fight for the Constitution. We must not continue to vote for just squishy, sometimes conservatives. The Republican Party has just as many big government Republicans in it as the Democratic Party does. And they fund evil. Well, guess what? The evil has happened not just because of one side. These people have picked a side. And as Glenn said, we are fighting the same battle that we've been fighting since the very beginning. This is not just some political battle. This is a battle between good and evil. And I prayed on it. And I feel in my spirit that it is my responsibility to warn you to not abdicate your responsibility as a Christian. Take your scriptures, read them, know them. Take somebody to the polls. We cannot afford to let this election pass us by. Do me a favor. Please like this video, share it, help me get this message out to as many people as possible, and subscribe to my channel for more content. And also be sure to click the notification bell so that you're notified every time I make a new video. God bless you, my friends.